Hi everybody, my name's Patty Chalk and this is my husband Keith, and Stephanie asked me to talk to you today a little bit about my own personal experience with our breast cancer journey. And I was going to do the video myself, and then I realized that I really couldn't portray the whole story of how it affected me as well as my family without Keith alongside me. So here we are, and we're going to tell you a little bit about our journey together.
In 2014, on New Year's Day, Patty and I sat at this kitchen table and we set down what our goals for the year were going to be, what we were going to try to accomplish. We set an annual budget for what we need, and in that day, Patty also casually mentioned she had a mammogram appointment coming up. It was going to be in a couple of weeks, and she's had callbacks for mammograms before, and she's always had anxiety about them. 2 weeks later, after the mammogram, there was a need for a follow-up, and I took off work, went with her, and I remember sitting in the waiting room and counting the women who went back after her, and they all came out before her, and I knew something was wrong. She came out, she couldn't even speak. She barely got out that we needed to go someplace else to talk to a social worker, that they wanted to do a biopsy. Biopsy was scheduled. I went back. A day after the biopsy, we received the phone call, and you hear the words carcinoma. And that began our journey with needing a team of doctors, chemotherapy, surgery, reconstruction, and the whole work.
So during our treatment process, which was approximately a 2-year journey, we were quite surprised at that ourselves. We had a crash course in breast cancer. Not every breast cancer is the same. There are so many different types and so many courses of treatment, and ours happened to be a 2-year process. And we felt so much strength from different local charities here in our town, our families, our friends, really our whole entire city, our community. Just they poured out their love and support for Keith and I and our kids. And this is such a critical piece when you are fighting this disease. Do you want to say something?
The support is critical for cancer patients and their families. It really is what makes the difference. That goal that we had set off on January 1st, 2014, all of that was put aside. The only thing that mattered was Patty's survival. The only thing that we cared about, that was the top priority, was Patty's survival. But life goes on, and we needed help for our kids. We needed help and support in so many ways. So that was all came in from the support of communities and charity organizations that surrounded us with love.
Yeah, so with Keep partnering with Bright Pink this whole entire month, I recently went on their website just to learn a little bit more about their mission. And what struck me most when I read on their website was called their approach in action. And that's what caught my eye. And it said that they provide health education to women and their providers. What this does is fosters a supportive healthcare relationship where women feel comfortable and trust talking to their providers on a regular basis. And this mission, their mission, reminded me of how important it was for Keith and I to find a team which consisted of a breast surgeon, an oncologist, a radiologist, and a plastic surgeon. And many of those were from different hospital systems, like some were from Christ Hospital, some were from Good Samaritan Hospital. And so we literally could pick and choose who we wanted on our medical team. And it was very important that all four of those doctors were on the same page for what type of treatment that I was going to get. And
that you were comfortable with them and you had confidence in them.
Yes. Yeah, trust in our team was huge. And we felt like we had the best in the Cincinnati area to take care of me. And I'll never forget the words of my breast surgeon. We met her the day after we got the biopsy results. She stayed late and worked us in. And my sister went with us because we needed extra eyes and ears. And she outlined everything about my type of cancer. And I'll never forget, as she was walking us down the hall and out the door, she put her arm around me and she said, "I'm going to get you healthy again." And it was like, that was just a little bit of confidence.
That you're in good hands.
That I was in good hands. And so basically what they did all agree, and we were very fortunate that it was no back and forth about who was going to do what for me. I ended up having to have a bilateral MRI, which what this showed was that my tumor was actually larger than what the ultrasound showed that it was. So right then and there, that changed the course of how the doctors wanted to proceed. They actually wanted to do chemotherapy first because the tumor was fairly large, and they decided that they wanted to shrink it with the chemo as much as possible before doing surgery. So I had 6 rounds of chemo, 4 drugs each time, and every 3 weeks.
And it would take approximately 6 to 8 hours for those drugs to drip into her body. So it was time consuming.
Yeah. And each time I would go, before I'd get the chemo, I would see my oncologist and he would measure the tumor. And so it was always like a wait and see what he was going to say if he felt like the tumor was shrinking. And each time we went in, every 3 weeks, he'd say that he thought the chemo was working. So we did that for every 3 weeks, 18 weeks. And I had a wonderful support system there. I was lucky enough to be put with a bunch of ladies that were my age, that I say fairly young. We were in our 40s, some were in their 30s even. And we just built a really close friendship through those chemotherapy treatments. It was just, it sounds weird, but we actually had fun. We would eat and we would talk and we would tell jokes, and we just all had an instant bond because of this.
They were like soldiers going in battle, and it was the bravest thing I could see was these women knowing the poison that was dripping into their system, and I knew what Patty was going to feel like the next day and the next week, and that they were laughing in the face of death.
Yeah, so it was. I think we always had that in the back of our mind that maybe this won't work, but we all kept as positive as we could. So after I finished the oncology portion, the chemo portion, I had to wait 4 weeks, and that brought us to the end of June. I believe it was June 30th that I had my mastectomy, and I chose to have a bilateral. So even though it wasn't in the other breast, I decided to just that I wanted both of them removed, and that's a personal choice that really they give the patient. I found that none of the doctors really gave me advice either way, but I knew in my heart that that was the right thing to do. And it turns out that was a good thing, because when the pathology came back, my doctor said it wasn't cancer, but there were suspicious looking cells in my other breast. So that was like enough for me to know that I made the right decision. And then, let's see, then we waited another 4 weeks, and then I began radiation. And radiation was Monday through Friday, every morning for
25.
5 weeks. Yeah, so 25 radiations. And the process was extremely quick. Before actually getting the radiations, you go and they kind of line your body up on a table, and there's beams from the ceiling, which is where the radiation, I guess, is going to come from. And they actually physically mark your body with a Sharpie, and so that they know exactly where the radiation is going to go into your body. So I did have it in lymph nodes in my armpit. So basically this whole quadrant of my body was treated with radiation after being through chemo and surgery.
And the purpose of radiation is to not give any fertile ground for cancer to regrow and redevelop. To give you an understanding of what the effects of radiation, if you ever recall maybe a day at the pool or a day at the beach where you've been out in the sun for a long time, and that fatigue you felt coming home afterwards, that was a daily feeling that Patty felt with just minutes of radiation to a quadrant of her torso. If you want to know what the effects of chemotherapy was, if you can imagine having a severe case of the flu for a prolonged long period of time, maybe 7-8 days, that's what chemotherapy was like. The after effect of chemotherapy was like. So it was like Patty having a severe case of the flu 6 repetitive times.
Yeah, so then after radiation, I wasn't burned too bad. A lot of girls end up having like really serious burns from the radiation. I was lucky in that I had some red skin areas, but nothing too bad. But I did have to wait a little bit after that before I started into the reconstruction phase of all of this. And that was a journey in and of itself. That reconstruction was not
it's painful.
It was very painful, and it wasn't as easy as I thought it was going to be.
They choose to create a cavity for an implant between 2 layers of muscle, and they have to create that cavity by inflating the area over a period of time.
Right. So we would go every couple weeks, I guess, to for the plastic surgeon to fill these expanders in order to prepare my skin and my body to actually receive the implants, because the radiation had tightened my chest so much that was the purpose of all of this. So so that was a long process, and that took up some time too. But all in all, from chemo to surgery to radiation to more surgeries with reconstruction, Keith and I just felt very, very confident in our medical team. So I just wanted to kind of end with a few things. I have some pictures to show, and I just wanted to say, as you finish October strong this month, and keep in mind the charity that we're supporting with Keep with Bright Pink, that maybe you could share with your design sessions that you heard a story from a breast cancer warrior, that how critical it is to have charities at work behind the scenes for all of us patients, and how much it really means. And as we ended our treatment, Keith and I kind of made it our mission to educate women if it presented itself, just in a casual way. And I've had numerous women or families reach out to me upon their diagnosis, and I've been blessed to be able to offer, just a little bit, even just tips about what to expect, or just advice about what they might be feeling. And I felt really blessed that we were able to do that, because so many women helped us when we were in that position. So that was really a big blessing for us. So I want to show a few pictures before we end. And so this one, if you can see, this is, so this was actually one of my friends' last day of chemotherapy, and you can see us all with our poles. And can you hold it better,
No,
closer?
I can.
So you can see us all with our poles there, and getting our chemo. And the doctors and nurses usually put music on and would let us dance and stuff when it was somebody's last day. So that's us, and many of us have our wigs on in that. And then there's me and Keith. At that point, I had lost my hair, and he went with me to every single chemo treatment. Luckily, his work was very nice, flexible, that he was able to go with me for every treatment. And this is my mom and dad. And my mom and dad drove me to every single radiation appointment. They insisted on that, and very grateful for that. My dad has since passed away, and so that was a really nice memory of them. And this is me bald, and this is actually the day that I was going in to have my mastectomy, and that's our daughter Michelle, and she gave me one of her stuffed animals that she asked me to take to the hospital with me to provide me some comfort, and it was a pink monkey. And we've also since lost Michelle, so that picture and that monkey has become very important to me as well. This was actually the 4th of July. It was so my surgery was on June 30th. This was the 4th of July. And I made it to the 4th of July parade in our local town. And I had, you have tubes and stuff still coming out, drain tubes and stuff, but I managed to hide them well. And Michelle actually marched in the parade with her cheer team, and unbeknownst to me, her squad had these shirts made that said "Cheer for a Cure" for me. And so that was a really, really neat gesture. And then this one is one of my last, I believe my last treatment. And my sister took that of us walking out the door. I guess I still go for checkups, but technically walking out. And as I was printing that this morning, I looked at Keith's face, and he was like literally in just a stare. And I think that shows like pure exhaustion of what we had just been through over the past couple years. So I thought that was a neat image. And then my sister did a photo shoot of everybody that, all my friends that I went through chemo with. And this was after we were all well on our journey back to health. And we just had a really fun time taking pictures and laughing and goofing off. So that's what that is. Do you have anything left to add?
No.
So we hope you enjoyed hearing about a real life story. And I just wanted to say good luck to all of you and finish the month strong, okay? So take care. Bye.